Hello friends, welcome back to Honestly Everything. It is 3:50 p.m. and the sun is setting, so that's really sick. Astounded every year like it's never happened before, and I won't stop bitching about it because it is just insane to me. And I am somebody who absolutely loves the dark, but my issue with it is that it's just a little too early. If we just didn't turn the clocks back and let the sun naturally do its thing, I think we would be okay. If the sun sets at 5:36 during the winter, I have sympathy for that. I will allow it. But when it's setting at like 4, it's like starting to descend. I realize it's not fully set, but I literally was at a coffee shop at 2:30 and I was like, oh, the sun's like, I can start to see that it's, kind of going down the second half. And so I was like, I should probably go and get home and get ready for tonight. And it was 2:30. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. I thought it was at least 5:30. It has been 2 weeks. I didn't post an episode last week because I was getting back from Europe and getting realigned and processing, and I got really sick. And I still kind of sound sick, so I didn't do anything last week. But I finally feel alive again today for the first time in like a very long time. And I wanted to talk about the full moon in Taurus that is happening. I'm filming this on Tuesday, but I'll post it tomorrow, so it will be the day of that I get to post it. And I'm really excited to talk about it because I love the moon and the stars, and I've been wanting to kind of do a little more intimate dive into them lately. And so I figured this was a beautiful moon to kind of start on. I have been playing with astrology for a really long time. I think I've already done a little bit of a background episode. I want to do like a history of astrology episode next and kind of start from the beginning and really like walk through everything because I find it so insanely interesting. But I have been, with the moon specifically, really doing a lot of rituals and kind of basing my energy work around it for probably like 6 years consciously. I think everybody kind of flows with the moon in their own way, but consciously working with it for probably about 6 years. And I definitely go through phases where I'm a little more present during them, and some I kind of am not as active, but especially once we start getting into fall and winter, I really connect back with that, and I'm just excited to be very witchy for the next few months. So yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful full moon. So I won't give a huge moon background. I can do that in another episode. But we all are very familiar with new and full moons and kind of the cycle of the moon that it goes through in general. And the new and full moon being like the very beginning and then kind of the peak. In terms of seasons, the new moon is very much like spring and the full moon is very much like fall, harvest. It's a time of like abundance and culmination every cycle. So about 6 months ago we had a new moon in Taurus in April, and that carries out through a 6-month cycle. So we're gonna have the new moon in Scorpio in a few weeks, and that's gonna start a cycle, and then in 6 months we're gonna have a full moon in Scorpio, and we're gonna kind of get to see the benefits of that. So I love to look back on when the new moon was when the last new moon was back in April, and kind of see the intentions that I set, the things that I was doing. If I didn't actively do something very specific, I literally just like to go through my camera roll and kind of see what I was doing around that time. It was the 27th, so that week-ish time. I like to look back and just kind of see what I was doing, the things that I was highlighting, anything in my notes app or any in my journals that I was kind of thinking about, planting seeds towards, and just kind of how that is showing up in my life now. And everybody has their own specific place in their birth chart where this happens. There are houses in astrology, so this is happening in a specific house in your chart. So for example, Taurus is in my 4th house, so it is in my house of home, stability, emotional security, and everybody has Taurus in a different part of their chart. So if you have Taurus in the 9th house, that energy is going to kind of show up for you a little bit differently than somebody who has Taurus in the 3rd house, because it just kind of shows the areas of life where that energy is being expressed in the physical. So that's why it's always really important to look and see whichever moon is happening, where it's happening in your chart, because there is a collective energy of what a full moon in Taurus brings and what we're kind of all feeling together, but then how it physically shows up in your world is very different. And it can always show up differently. It can show up in a way that has nothing to do with whatever house it's in. But I always find that it has a lot of themes in the house that it's presenting itself in. So I like to look back at that time, see what I was doing, and then check which house that is in your birth chart, which you can go to pretty much any astrology website. There are different systems in astrology, so if you use cafe astrology, I operate on a different system than that. I use whole signs. They're not incredibly far off, but it does kind of make a difference, and each version has, you know, their own purpose, and I think that you're drawn to the system that matches you the best. CoStar also uses that as well, but then if you use something like Chani, her default is whole signs, and that's who I really follow heavily, so I do go by that system. But whatever works and whatever resonates for you, I encourage you to look at both and see what feels more aligned. But yeah, so the full moon's happening. Taurus, the moon is very happy in Taurus. Every astrology sign kind of has its planets that it fucks with and its planets that it doesn't. And Taurus really fucks with the moon, which is great. It's ruled by Venus. It's very aesthetic, beauty-oriented. Taurus qualities are practicality, stability, material abundance, self-worth, comfort, security. Did I already say security? Security is a very big one. Their sign is the bull. They are typically, their shadow is a little bit stubborn. The stubbornness stems from the fact that they love to feel secure and comforted, and any sort of change spooks them and kind of gives this threat of instability. And so that's where the stubbornness, bullheaded kind of energy comes from, because they like to feel safe, and things they like to feel safe, and they like for things to be stable. And so it's opposing sign of Scorpio, which is complete and utter transformation. So they like to feel stable and secure, and any sign of change, if imbalanced, can really throw off that sign. Now, like, a very healthy, light side of Taurus is being able to accept that change is inevitable, and that does not mean that our inner foundation needs to be... There's a squirrel eating my pumpkin. Hey! The squirrels are eating my pumpkins. Oh, fuck, what was I saying? Light side is very much like the acceptance of change, and the fact that change does not have to completely derail you. It doesn't have to take away your inner foundation and your inner security, because at its core, Taurus energy essentially is self-worth from within, and having a solid, safe, stable, secure inner foundation, and allowing the outside world to kind of do whatever it needs to do, and being, you know, stubborn and steadfast in that rooted part of self. Because it also, in the houses of astrology, it kind of governs the second house, which has those themes. And I remember when I was first diving into it, and I was kind of looking at the traits of the second house, and I noticed that self-worth and money were in the same one. And now, going through my journey and life, I obviously understand how those two are correlated, but I remember being like, that's interesting that those two unrelated things are grouped together in the same house. And that is so not true. So I think it's really interesting, because Taurus, ruled by Venus, does kind of express the more material side of that, like the luxury, the aesthetic, the beauty. I think funny stereotypes of Taurus are they love their things, they love their comfort, they love their food, they love their, you know, any physical item that they can use to feel comforted and safe. I love a Taurus, but they truly have this like steadfast stability about them that I just truly love. They feel very anchored into the 3D. It's very Empress energy, it's an earth sign. So they feel very, very grounding. I already talked about that. I'm looking at my notes because I decided that I'm allowed to take notes. The past few podcasts, squirrel, hey! The past few podcasts I have like sat down and just yapped, and that has been fine. And I think that I'll do that from time to time, but I think I kind of beat myself up over taking notes and like planning for a podcast, which is so silly, and I finally let go of that because what the fuck. So I have allowed myself to take notes so that I feel a little bit better and stay a little bit on track. This, I'm just gonna let it have it. It won't stop eating my pumpkin, and no matter how much I shoo it away. It tried to come in my window the other day. It's the same squirrel, I'm convinced. Oh, it's looking at me. Y'all, we are making direct eye contact. It's the same squirrel. He lives here every single day, and he just prances around my whole place, and he waits for me to put things out that he can eat. And I'm just gonna let him have that pumpkin. Okay, anyways. I love Taurus energy. I truly love Taurus energy. There's so many beautiful, amazing Tauruses in my life, and I have a very difficult placement there, and I have a lot of beauty modeled to me by the Tauruses in my life, and I really love that because for an energy that is not always the easiest for me to accept and allow in myself, it's really beautiful to watch other people be able to embody that so well around me. Yeah. Anyways, I kind of feel like I just talked about all my notes. I kind of just talked about all of my notes. Yeah, okay, okay. Now I'm back on track to actually what this whole entire thing was about. Nourishment. Because with something that is so centered on security and stability, it's like what allows you to feel safe and secure. And with me, I feel like that really ties into like how you nourish yourself. Everybody has their own things that feel grounding and stable, but nourishment and taking care of yourself is like a pinnacle of Taurus energy. And I mean, like, truly, I like last night just lit candles. I mean, made my house the coziest space, and you know, had like an ambiance going and curled up with a book, and like it's truly like also allowing yourself to be still is a quality of Taurus that I clearly am learning in this lifetime to allow, and it's not easy for me, but they embody it so well, and their ability to truly allow themselves to relax without guilt is admirable, and something that I really, really love to try and embody and can't always embody, but there are people around me who are able to do it so incredibly well. Because I think that with anybody, regardless of how Taurus is placed in your chart, you experience the light and the shadow side of it no matter what. So everybody has experienced kind of the shadow side of Taurus where you feel very resistant to change. Overindulgence is also something, because I think that there is that line of nourishment, and then there's that line of overindulgence, and I think that Taurus energy really walks that line, especially with like food and comfort and like, you know, your shows and the things that are so important as a human to allow yourself to indulge in. Indulgence is a human. I'm sorry, the squirrel keeps staring at me and is like actually trying to break into my apartment. I would move my camera, but I won't. It won't go back to the right place. But you know, I think about this a lot as somebody who like has a very heavy emphasis in this placement. The things, and this is also the Virgo part of me coming in and wanting to make everything a problem, but the things that you do to nourish yourself can also be the things that you overindulge in and end up really fucking you over. And like walking that line is the hard part. And I think that sometimes we want cut and dry answers in life, especially when it comes to things like health, taking care of yourself, and nourishment. We want, this is good for you and this is bad for you, do this and don't do that. And nothing is black and white in this world. Everything is gray. There is no, this is the cure, this is what you must do in order to be healthy or in order to XYZ. There is no formula for anything. It is only ever keeping a state of internal balance and intuition and awareness with whatever it is that you're engaging with. And in terms of Taurus, it is kind of those material things, food, alcohol, weed, alcohol a little bit, maybe not as much, but just like indulging in when I think I'm trying to do this nicely without like ripping on Tauruses, because I know that sometimes people will call them lazy or you know, focus on some of the things that they indulge in. But I do think it's interesting because food can be such a comfort. I have pho on my stove right now. It can be such a nourishing, comforting thing. It can also be something that you use to fill a void if you don't feel safe. If you have this hole of inner security and safety and foundation, and you know, your emotions aren't stabilized, like you can fill that void with food. You can fill that void with, I don't know if I can say weed. Am I gonna get, I don't know if I want to say that. But it comes to mind with me. Anywho, everybody will have different things that nourish them. If you have Taurus in the 9th house, traveling might nourish you. It might truly fulfill this sense of stability. If you have Saturn in your 4th house like me, I really feel the most comforted and nourished when I'm able to just exist in my home and allow myself whatever comfort in a safe, healthy way that I want. If you have Taurus in the 7th house, you probably find a lot of stability and comfort in others, and not just like a significant other, but just other people in general. And so I think that's also where it is important to kind of look and see where it's at, because it can show up differently, and everybody has their own way of nourishing themselves. And I think that that is just such an important thing to be aware of. That's why I love astrology. It's very much a reflective tool. Like this full moon in Taurus, I have sat and just truly dove into journal prompts and asked myself questions about what certain things mean to me. And it's gone on this whole, you know, unfolding, and that it really brought me back to why I love astrology so much. And it is fun in its own sense, and sometimes, yeah, you really can kind of predict the future and kind of understand the energy and the cycles and how that translates, and it's really cool and fun, and you know, you can use it with your friends and all of that. But then at the end of the day, I'm reminded why I was brought to it, and that is because it is the most introspective, incredible self-understanding tool I've ever used, because it really allows you to look in yourself and ask yourself the things that matter. You know, what nourishes you? What helps you feel safe and supported in the physical world? How can you allow more slowness into your life? And it just really, it's just reflective. And I've gotten like a resurgence of it over the past 2 days. And it's really, really made me happy. Because I forget how far I've come with some of this stuff, and then I sit and I reflect and I look back and I'm like, wow, there is so much growth that has happened here. Anyways, enough bragging about myself. Yeah, to sum it all up, look at your birth chart, see where this is happening for you, and kind of dive into the energy of Taurus. I really like to look at the zodiacs as just 12 energies. Everybody has all of them. They're all expressed in different ways. And really just kind of like research or feel into, Taurus is also very sensual, feel into what that energy is like for you and how you can embody the light sides of it, how you've worked in the shadows of it, how you can achieve balance through that, because that is what I am doing. Allow yourself to rest and be cozy in whatever way that is. Watch a good show, read a good book, order yourself some food, make yourself some food. As we wind down into winter, the energy is starting to get, you know, more inward. So that's how I will be spending my moon. I will be completely cozied up and wrapped up and enjoying the fruits of my labor. Because that is really another like huge energy of the full moon. I've touched on it briefly, but it really is like a celebratory, you know, what have I been doing for myself in the past 6 months in this area? How have I grown? What have I been doing? And can I just kind of rest in that? Can I allow myself to enjoy the harvest of everything that I've been working towards? Yeah. My pumpkin just... Oh. I will show my pumpkin at the end of this because it's mutilated. The past few days of astrology have been insane. So if you feel like you have sat at rock bottom and then like kind of been rebirthed, that is also astrology. I won't get too technical because it's a lot of words that you might not recognize, but there has been some crazy shifts. There's a lot of energy going on this week. Mercury retrograde. Y'all, I say that. I cannot say... Do I have a problem with ours? Mercury retrograde happens on Sunday. It begins. We're already in the shadow of it. You're probably already feeling like, hey, things are a little weird. They are. It's happening in the sign of Sagittarius and Scorpio. And I will be making a whole other one on that because we don't really need to get into all of that today. Just be aware that it is coming and you're probably already feeling it. It happens 3 times a year. It's not the end of the world. It's just a little bit annoying. But we can still continue to operate and do the things that we need to do. We just need a little extra patience. Yeah, there's some other like significant transits that are happening this week, and I'm very interested to see and hear from people if that's something that you want me to talk about, because I can talk about the moons, I can talk about more intimate and like deep transits. I don't really know yet what all I'm gonna expand on, but I do know that I love talking about the moons, and I do know that I'm gonna do like a history of astrology, kind of going back to the beginning, and that one will be a lot longer. But I'm very interested to know like what people enjoy listening to and how in depth you would like for me to go. So definitely reach out if this is something that you like and are interested in, and with anything, just reach out. The whole point of this is for me to connect with people and to talk about things, and yeah. So, alrighty, that is the full moon. Please go wrap yourself up in a blanket, and I will be back on in a few days and we can talk about Mercury retrograde. Cheers, everybody. Oh, wait. There it is. There it is. It's destroyed. It was sitting up here. You little bitch.